Hey guys, it's Alex, and today I wanted to talk about my top 5 favorite sequels. A lot of the times when you're reading series, the first book is the best book. I find that as a lot of series go along, I still enjoy the books, but they're often not my favorites, as the first one is. These are 5 sequels I have gathered that I actually prefer to the original novel. The first book I have on this list is The Riddle by Alison Croggon. This is the second book in the Books of Pelennor series, which is a young adult fantasy series around a teenage girl who finds that she has magical powers, and she starts traveling around with her mentor, who is teaching her, and she's also part of a prophecy. It does hit quite a few tropes throughout the series, but I think this book is by far the most tropey and the most fan service of all the books, and I think for that reason, it's one that if I described it and described everything that happened and all the tropes that existed within it, it wouldn't be my favorite. But reading it is just such an enjoyable experience. I love this whole series, but there's something about this one that just touches your heartstrings. And even when it's full of tropes and things that should make the story weaker, it just makes me really happy to read. But this is one sequel that I will honestly just pick up and read on its own. Even though usually I will read a series all the way through, I've read this book more than I have the first book or any other book in the series. It's just that good, and I would highly recommend this series. The second book I have on this list is also young adult fantasy, and that is The Will of the Empress by Tamora Pierce. I love Tamora Pierce, but when I fell in love with her writing and her books, it was always with the Tortall universe, where a lot of her stories are set. But she has a second universe that she writes within called the Circle of Magic. The first quartet is called the Circle of Magic, and the second is called The Circle Opens. I had read both of them, and I enjoyed both of them, but they were never favorites for me. They're middle grade books, and I read them when I was older in high school. Despite enjoying them, they were never what Tortall was for me. And then I read this book, and with this book I got it. I understood why people love the Circle of Magic series so much. This book put it all together for me. This is not middle grade. This is set when they're all about 18. And I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with who they become. And because of that, I have a new appreciation and love for the Circle of Magic series. It's one that I look back on with more fondness after reading this. I never thought they were bad, but now there's something that I love almost as much as I love her other books. And I do really think it's because of this book and because their stories continued on that I was able to really fall in love with these characters. The third book I have on this list is Sisterhood Everlasting by Anne Brashares. This is the companion novel to the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series set when they're all adults. I didn't read the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants until I was in college, or even graduated from college maybe. And because of that, I didn't have the love that a lot of people who grew up on the series have for it. I still liked it, but for me it was always missing something. And then I read this, and this book is a lot darker, it's a lot more serious. It's an adult novel, so the characters are adults, and it deals with more adult issues. And I loved this book. This was my favorite. Much like with The Will of the Empress, this book made me look at the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants in a completely different way. It made me more attached to these characters, and it made me fall in love with the story so much more. I know a lot of people don't like this book because of some of the things that happened in it, but for me it added to the story, and it made everything so much more compelling in this world. It made me want to reread these books just so I can appreciate them with the knowledge of the finale. The next book on this list is Long May She Reign by Ellen Emerson White. This is the fourth and final book in the President's Daughter series, and I absolutely love it. I actually haven't read the rest of the books in this series. I read the first one, but I've been having trouble getting access to the second and third books, so I haven't read them yet. Because I did originally think this was a standalone, and it does function as a standalone, but it's so good that when you're aware you're missing most of the story, you just have to go back and read it. Everything in this book is so well written and so fully developed. Meg is an amazing main character. She has a family that are full of incredibly well developed characters. She has numerous friends and a boyfriend and and eggs and bodyguards and dozens of people surrounding her who are as equally well developed. The world is so well done, and every choice that every character makes logical sense as a reader, and you can understand where they're coming from. And it's such a wonderful read. It's a book that I've read time and time again. And it's a very long book. This book is 700 or 800 pages, and I've read it several times. I would highly recommend this series so much just to get to this final book, because it's honestly one of the best books that I've ever read. And the final book on this list is Harry Potter. It would not be a list this month without including Harry Potter, since it is the Newt's Readathon. I picked Harry Potter in the Order of the Phoenix for this list, even though it's not my favorite Harry Potter book. This is the only book on this list that I don't prefer to the original. But I included this book because I think this was a turning point for the Harry Potter series. The first 4 books were amazing and wonderful, and I have no complaints about their story. But they were children's books. The first 3 were undoubtedly children's books, and the 4th got a little bit more mature, especially towards the end, but I still think they could be classed as children's novels. However, J.K. Rowling drew a firm line when she wrote this book, because this book isn't a children's book, and it's the first time in this series that we do get such mature topics and mature themes, and we've seen these characters grow throughout the previous books, but this book stands in such stark contrast that things get very real very quickly. There are very real consequences to all of their actions, whereas early on, things could go badly, but it was still turning out okay. This was the book where things got dark. Things didn't always turn out okay. And it's so well done, even though we had read about this child for several years, for several books already. J.K. Rowling was able to write a book where he wasn't a child anymore. He's still only 15, but he's very much an adult who's seen and experienced a lot of things in life that I think most people haven't. And he's been through so much trauma that it's just a hard book to read, but such a wonderful turning point in the series. And I think this is one of the most important books in the series, because there's so much character development that happens in it. It does have its flaws, but I think it's so well done and so amazing that, I'd say I recommend people read it, but I think most people have read Harry Potter by now, and if you haven't, you should get on that, because it's Harry Potter. Those were my favorite sequels. Let me know down below what some of your favorite sequels are, and if you've read any of these books. I always love to hear from you guys. Thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!